Another day, another FPL vid. Jack, how you doing?
Joshua, very good, thank you. Glad to be back doing another vid. It's been a while, been a hot minute, as they say. I think it's been about a month. So sorry, viewers, for the hiatus, but we're back now, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, inundated with messages saying it's been a month and like you need to
Angry
get
fan base.
moving, shaking.
Angry fan base, Josh. But the good thing is our videos nowadays are so evergreen and applicable anytime that you can just go back and watch our old vids if you get bored, because they're still applied today. So you're welcome for that one. And
Yeah, you are welcome.
Moaning.
Yeah, just go to the other vids. Wait, be patient. Cheers.
Exactly. 100%. Josh, what's this video all about?
This video, Jack, we're going to discuss and talk about rolling transfers. So, a lot of people they don't like sitting on their hands. They feel like rolling a transfer is passive. So, we want to discuss what are the pros, cons, when should you do it? Is it good? Is it terrible? What's the deal? So we're going to try and break it down a bit.
Cool. Sounds good to me. It's been a question in my mind since for playing FPL forever. So you're taking the lead on this one. So what is rolling a transfer, Josh? Explain.
What is rolling a transfer, Jack? Well, basically, if an unused transfer, so you don't use your transfer a game week, becomes an additional free transfer the following game week. So you then have two to use, so you can make the two transfers. Sounds great. Obviously, if you try and do that again, if you then don't use them, you still only get two. So you can't just build them up and try and build up, like a wild card or something. Nice. Lines. You get the two, and there are benefits to that, which we'll go into.
Sure thing. Yeah, I always said before we go into it, I always thought it would be great if you could just keep stacking them. I think we've said in another video before, if you could just keep stacking them up, resist making a change, and then you've got, like you say, like an effective wild card after 10 game weeks, because that I think would entice inactive players to come back more. Like if they'd just forgotten the game for like 2 months and then they come back and they've got 11 transfers to make, then great, they're back in. But that's a tangent anyway. So yeah,
that isn't covered.
Yeah, I think we did a video of 10 ways we'd improve FPL, and that was one of the ways. So go and check that out. We'll put the link in the description.
There you go. Boom.
There it is.
Transitioning between bids. But yeah, anyway.
Cool. Yeah.
So I'm going to pitch to you, Jack, what I think are good reasons to roll, and then some other reasons why not to roll.
Cool.
And then you're going to tell me which ones are just rubbish and just what is the overall conclusion from what I found, basically.
Sounds good. Good.
Between us, we'll get there. We'll tell everyone the lowdown. So why roll, basically? The biggest one for me, I think, is that flexibility. When you get to being able to use two transfers in a game week, it basically allows you like a mini restructuring. So across two sets of positions, for example, or if you're trying to swap premiums, one who's a midfielder, one who's an attacker, you obviously need two transfers to do that. And if you don't want to take a hit, then obviously rolling is a good way to do that as well. And just generally gives you more flexibility. So that's the first one. I'm just going to roll through them. There's only three, and then we can just discuss them all together. Unless you want to tackle that one now, Jack.
No, let's hit me with all the good stuff.
Lovely. On to number two. So the other reason to roll is an anticipation of things like blanks or doubles. So if you know a big game week is coming up, blanks, doubles, and you don't like the way your team's looking, you're going to have to make lots of changes. Obviously, rolling in advance of that, if you've got on a right team for right now for the game week you're sat in, then you can roll and save yourself, a potential hit later on, and just kind of cushion that in advance, basically. And then the third reason why to roll is, I think it's not kind of best practice to build a game, like a single game week, like a free hit, is it? Like you want to be kind of good over the long or medium term, isn't it? So making a transfer every week for the sake of it, often you'll just look at your weakest player for that game week, and it may be the case that they just have a poor fixture or two, like one or two, when actually they may be a good asset over the 5. So it's kind of saying that like, oh, someone who might not look great when you first glance could end up doing better than you think for that game week. And then actually you want them for the following game week or in 2 game weeks time anyway. So have patience and roll in that scenario would be a way out of it. And those I think are the 3 big ones. Shout out any others and then let me know what you think.
Yeah, good. Yeah, agree with all those 3. I guess the only one I'd add, or maybe expand, maybe it's an expansion on the third point, is that it gives you another week of information. So I did this once. So I did a season where I forced myself to roll every other week. So I was like, right, always have 2 transfers, because I was like adhering to the 3 things, these 3 things, like, oh, 2 is better than 1. So why wouldn't I always want 2 each week instead of 1 every week? And the idea was that we say that you should wait until the end of the deadline, wait until the deadline before you make a transfer. So you've got a week worth of information. So I extended that to think, well, 2 weeks is better than 1 week of information. So imagine if I had 2 weeks of information and 2 transfers instead of 1 week of info and 1 transfer. And maybe I'll wait to the end to let you know how I did that season of rolling every week. But no, agree with all those. Yeah, it's pretty sort of intuitive, isn't it? Why the benefits of having two is better than 1.
Exactly. So I think it's natural now to go with the reasons not, and then basically just balance them against each other.
It's natural.
Like it. So reasons not to roll. So optimistic managers will tell you, there's always a way to improve your team. So any game week, that transfer could, you could bring in a player that could hit double figures, etc. So just holding off and being passive is you're missing out on that opportunity. So just be proactive, I guess, is one of the reasons not to roll. The next thing is being too passive will also cause like fires to mount up in your team. So most people will look at their team and be like, this guy's on the chopping block, or maybe those 2 or 3 people on the chopping block, and just waiting again, you may have a 4th player on the chopping block, and then you're just having too many fires to put out, and you end up taking hits or using a chip when you didn't really want to put out this, carpet bonfire just to get it out of the way. And then the third reason is, especially in like mid to late season, you've got to be, proactive. You can't be passive if you're trying to get ahead of the curve and smash up go up the table in your mini league or getting some overall rank. Being passive and like trying to be template and too safe, it's just not going to get you anywhere. So yeah, that's the counter arguments.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think the only one I'll add to that is that, and it more goes against one of the positives where you avoid hits. But as we discovered in our previous video, taking a hit isn't that bad at all. So, people say, oh, 2 transfers, it means you don't have to take a hit. But actually, we found that a hit is often the right way to go and just really isn't that detrimental. So if you can make those 2 changes a week early for the hit, more often than not, it's a good thing. But yeah, agree with all of those again. And so the season I did do my rolling every week was my worst ever season. And it wasn't during a time when I was just kind of casually playing. It was like, I think 3 or 4 seasons ago. And I came like 700k, which is like my second worst ever rank. Only behind a year when I just wasn't even trying. And I just had a shocker, and it was these reasons you've said. So it was like the fires mounted up big time. And because like a player would get injured, and because I was sticking to this rule, I just wouldn't take him out until the next week. But I think what really killed me with it wasn't so much the fires mounting up, but it was the missed opportunity cost over time, sort of compounding. So like, say, I think like Jamie Vardy was having a great season and he'd pop off and I'd be on 1 week where I wasn't making a transfer. So I'd wait 2 weeks and then finally bring him in. So he's already had 2 weeks of amazing hauls that I've missed. So I brought him in but then someone else is getting quite good. So I've got to wait another 2 weeks before that person's good. Whereas if I brought Vardy in the first week, I'd bring the other guy in the second week, the week I brought Vardy in. So not only do I miss Vardy's hauls, I've also missed this other amazing guy's hauls for another 2 weeks. And then that just compounds up and up and up. And you find that the 11 you've got is just way behind the players that you should have. And that's where I found myself like mid-season, just without all these players, or just missing the hauls of these players that I eventually bring in behind the curve, probably for more money. And that's the other thing, the price rises that you'll miss out on by rolling are significant over time, especially in that early season. So if you wait 2 weeks and you just, especially when all the managers are more active, you know, if you'd rolled every week, every 2 weeks this season, Haaland would just have gone up 0.6 in price before you could even think about bringing him in. So yeah, that's all I'd add to that, really. You can probably tell by the activity in my voice where I sit on this debate. Yeah.
So with the pros and cons mapped out, I guess we both should just pitch our own conclusion. So
go on then.
I can start with mine because I can tell by your tone already where you're gonna land. But for me, I think it's what you said. You can't, like, generally speaking, you can't be passive, and that's something I've tried to. We talked about this a lot. I've tried to be taking more risk throughout the season as a general rule of thumb, anyway. But the only scenario where I would use it is where there is a big like double or blank and you're just not prepared for it, and you're not going to be, a chip isn't going to get you out of that, where the only way to get out of it is transfers, and it's hits versus that. So that's where I'd really say the role comes in useful. So, and I guess when you boil it down, that's kind of only 1 or 2 times a year where that's really maybe going to come into play. So like hardly ever, I'd say the role is the route to take.
Yeah, that scenario where there's like a blank with only a couple of like rubbish teams playing, and you don't want the players in the week before, but you do want 2 Southampton players in for that week, then rolling and then bringing them in for that week might make sense. Yeah, like you say, or a double game week in the same way. But yeah, I think it's very, very rare where there's a week where your team can't be improved in some way. And so rolling, the luxury of being able to roll because your team is ideal for that week. Like, I'd just say look a little bit harder because it probably isn't ideal for that week. And rolling isn't that good. I guess the only other one would be if you roll for 1 week and then make 1 transfer in subsequent weeks, you've kind of got that second one in your locker as backup for when you really need it. Might be the only caveat to that. So if you can afford to roll 1 week, don't feel that the next week you have to spend both transfers. But ideally just spend 1 transfer, and then again you're rolling the second one to the next week. So yeah, if one of those rare, unicorn weeks come by when your team looks ideal, maybe roll it and keep that one in your back pocket. But yeah, as a general rule, make transfers and take hits is what I'd advise, based on our extensive research, Josh, of doing this show.
Exactly. Got to be on the front foot. I think that just builds into that mantra, isn't it? Like, make moves, got to make waves, got to be proactive. Take risks. Live life.
Good. Yeah, live your life. Don't sit passively rolling transfers in life.
Come on,
life isn't about rolling.
Yeah.
It's about making moves. Good. All right. I think that summed it up, Josh. We're on the side of avoiding rolling.
We don't like rolling.
No. Do the opposite of what Fred Durst says and stop rolling.
Stop rolling.
Not a good role model. Good. All right. That's it.
Cheers, Jack. Hope you found this useful, and tune in for the next vid.
Happy days.